Luis Santos Serrano from the Small Business Administration, and Regina Birdsell with the Center for Nonprofit Management. Thank you to all our presenters for joining us today. At this time, I would like to give the floor to Congressman Tony Cárdenas.
Hello, hi everybody. This is Tony Cárdenas. Just wanted to say thank you so much for your interest in serving the community and for your dedication. And as we've done before, under different circumstances, we've brought not-for-profits together to help you understand who the funders are out there and give you some tools and some insight into perhaps being more successful in getting those resources to you so that you can get them to your communities and the people that you're serving. I grew up in Pacoima. I had my fair share of ups and downs growing up in an immigrant household with parents with a first and second grade education. And although we seldom found ourselves in need of the services of the community, like what you do, but there was one point in time when the single breadwinner in my parents' marriage for close to 50 years, my father, somebody did something to him and he broke his ankle, and he was a gardener, he couldn't work, and we had to enlist the resources of both the government and the surrounding community, and thank God that they were there for us. And we're talking about a family at that time that probably had 6 or 7 of the 11 kids still living there with one breadwinner. So I just want to let you know that I understand the needs of the community that I serve, the needs of the community that you serve, and your service comes in various forms. And it's important for me to convey to you that that's one of the main reasons why I keep running for office, is because I want to make sure that we have people in the community that serve the community, whether it's you through your not-for-profit or an elected official like me, to make sure that we are looking at the most needy denominator out there and making sure that we're making policy and we're taking day-to-day actions that are helping people. So once again, thank you so much for serving the community, and hopefully this discussion today will be fruitful for you and your organization, and whatever you learn and you like today, please share it with your colleagues in your ecosystem out there. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Congressman. Our first guest today is Ella Ronan, Program Officer at California Community Foundation, also known as CCF. Within her role as a Program Officer for Alliance Inc., Ella oversees the public-private partnership that has helped generate more than $190 million for the LA region. Ella will be providing CCF updates and share some information on COVID-19 LA County Response Fund. Welcome, Ella. The floor is yours.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Thank you to Congressmember Cárdenas for hosting this and allowing us to speak. I just want to check everyone can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Great. I'm going to be sharing my screen, so I'm going to do that now. Did it go through?
Yes.
Great. So I just want to open by saying that obviously these are unprecedented times for us, and the philanthropic community, I think, is responding in as best as it can in a way to be effective and efficient for nonprofits, while at the same time having to contend with the fact that because of the volatility of the stock market, our own coffers are in flux right now, and there's a great urgency to work together and to really support our nonprofit community as best we can. All that to say that this information is current, but it is ever evolving. And so I would urge you to just, be consistent about checking in foundation websites and other things to be the most up to date as things evolve. So I'll tell you a little bit first. I don't think it clicked through. No, hold on. Oh, there it goes. Okay. I'll just tell you a little bit about CCF's response fund first, since that's obviously the one I'm most familiar with. So CCF, being the Community Foundation for LA County, immediately opened up what's called the COVID-19 Response Fund. This is a pooled fund. We're taking donations from individuals, we're pooling funds from other foundations throughout the area, and it's all going into one fund with very specific goals in mind. Those being mitigating the impacts of the school closures, homeless residents, health clinics and hospitals, hardship assistance, and immigration. So I'll just tell you a little bit about each of those categories. In terms of mitigating impacts on school closures, obviously the student community is very much impacted. This generates out into the families. There's a huge population of students in LA County that rely on school meals as their main meal source throughout the week. California received a waiver that now allows schools to continue serving meals in non-congregate settings, meaning that I'm sure many have heard of the grab and go stations that have popped up around, so you can go and pick up those meals. The LA Food Bank has been adding food to those meals, since legally those meals are only enough for the students and not supposed to serve the entire family. So the LA Food Bank has stepped in to provide additional foods in those grab and go offerings so that the entire family will have food for the day. So supporting those types of efforts, understanding that many students now who are left without reliable internet service can't do the online school programming the way the state and the school districts have intended. So if you're doing something that is directly related to the impacts of the school closures, then that will qualify under this fund. CCF has always been a leader in mitigating the impacts of people experiencing homelessness in LA County. This is obviously an area that's been very hard hit. The community of people experiencing homelessness obviously are more prone to contracting COVID-19. And so understanding that emergency shelters need to be built up, food service needs to be provided to those emergency shelters. There needs to be consistent testing. There needs to be quarantining for people that may have been interfaced with someone that has it or does have it. So anything that really revolves around the homeless population, again, qualifies for this fund. I'm sure as everyone has heard, health clinics and hospitals have been completely overrun. And at the same time, there are many services that they're providing that either isn't currently reimbursable under the law or will take time to be reimbursed under the CARES Act. And so anything that has to do with providing equipment or resources to health clinics, hospitals, qualifies under this fund. There's something called hardship assistance. This is an expansion of a fund that we've actually had for 20 years now called the Pass It Along Fund. This is one-time cash to individuals that have an immediate need resulting from COVID-19. So if you are affiliated with a nonprofit as an individual and you need, I'm just going to make up numbers, let's say, $400 to get your car fixed, to take a loved one to, their doctor's appointments because they might have been affected, for example, made up example, then you might qualify for hardship assistance. So again, one-time cash aid. If you're a nonprofit that has this infrastructure in place, then you can work with our COVID-19 fund to become one of the approved providers of hardship assistance. And then I'll say the immigrant community has obviously been very hard hit. And if you are undocumented or of mixed status in your family or something along those lines, you oftentimes are not going to be eligible for a lot of the federal and state funding that has come down. So offering additional assistance to those that might not be eligible under, the SBA loans if you own a business or any sort of government funding that doesn't follow down to undocumented individuals. Some additional philanthropic funding, which I am not as familiar with, but is a great resource that you should definitely look into. The United Way has also started its own pandemic relief fund. The Mayor's Fund of Los Angeles has two funds that they're fundraising for, their COVID crisis fund and what's called the Angelino Fund. Their Angelino Fund is essentially the same as our Pass It Along Fund. It's cash assistance to individuals, while the Crisis Fund has its own resources for nonprofits. Additional funding beyond philanthropic is, I think everyone's been very in tune with the SBA loans. There are two SBA loans. One are the emergency loans, EIDL. These are loans that are not forgivable. And then there's the Paycheck Protection Plan, which is a loan that you get through your bank and ultimately can be forgivable if you follow the guidelines of the loans. Nonprofits are eligible for these two loans under the CARES Act. In addition, the City of LA has a microloan program, and as of today, the County of LA has opened the Employer Assistance Fund, all of which nonprofits are eligible for. Just to an idea of where to go for additional information, you'll soon be hearing from the Center for Nonprofit Management, an excellent resource, not just about where to get funding from, but how to manage your operations during these precarious times, what you should be looking at, how you can just sort of be more proactive, or what you can do to mitigate some of the effects of COVID-19 and the response on our community, or the effects on our community. And then there's the Nonprofit Finance Fund, which has a toolkit and some additional financial resources that are very helpful when looking at your finances during this time. So with that, I will open to questions.
Okay.
Again, at this time, I encourage you all to ask a question on any information that was provided by Ella. Okay. Again, remember, we will have an additional time for questions at the end of the presentations in case you miss the opportunity to ask Ella or any of our other presenters a question. So our next guest, thank you again, Ella.
Thank you.
Our next guest is David Milian over from Chrysalis. David, within his role, David trains candidates on how to properly utilize resources to find employment opportunities and works in helping them resolve barriers. David will be providing insight into how Chrysalis has been impacted by the COVID-19 crisis and the ways the organization is trying to mitigate some of the effects. Welcome, David. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much. And thank you, Representative Tony Cárdenas, for creating this space for us to share some of our experiences so far. At least for my part here, I am in the office because we're trying to see what time the mailman comes in so we can grab those important mail for those clients that are experiencing homelessness and for them to get their mail. So a little bit about my presentation. I'm gonna mainly talk a little bit more about how we've changed with this new labor market. 60% of our funds come through private funds, and about 35% comes through our social enterprise. That means that we have contracts with business associations and with the state, specifically with Caltrans. And I'm gonna talk to you a little bit more about that as I go through my presentation here. I gotta tell you, as a nonprofit, we moved really, really quickly in the last 3 weeks in creating systems and how to deliver these new services. So we had to get really, really creative. So I'm gonna share a little bit more about how this looks. And Michelle's kind of helping me out with this presentation here. So I'm going to present you the new virtual client experience. Our mission is to help people look for work. Our belief is teaching somebody how to fish. And so we really try to go over some of those topics. So really quickly, our program here, we started here in the Valley. No, we actually started in downtown LA in '84. In 2001, we came here to Pacoima. 2014, up this beautiful office. And so I'm gonna talk a little bit more about how our service has changed. Okay, Michelle, go for it. Okay, the process. So if you have clients or individuals in your caseload that are looking for work, we opened up a new hotline starting April 15th. I don't have the number yet, but if at the end of this presentation, I have my info there, feel free to call me or text me or email me to get that intake number. So the way we're doing it now is we're having clients call this number to take their information. Once we take their information, they'll be oriented and assessed by one of us, the employment specialist, to talk a little bit more about what their job experiences is and talk a little bit more about the barriers that have been coming up. Classes are all done now by phone and by Zoom for those that have internet service. After that, then we're gonna go ahead and take a look at the resume, make sure everything is good. We do serve Spanish-speaking clients as well, so we do offer these services in Spanish. Practice interview, kind of go over those practice interview questions. After that, then the conversation really is gonna be on the phone or through texts or through email on what that job search strategy looks like. In addition to that, we also have a social enterprise, like I mentioned. Roads is a really special program. That's one of the things that has changed since this whole situation with the virus started. At first, they canceled our contract because of the social distancing, and it was really hard to get work done without violating that rule. So recently, we got in contract with Caltrans, and they said that some of our workers can now do assignments online or through just trainings and get for that. So this is a really good thing for some of those clients that recently got out of serving their time and trying to get back into the workforce. So that's a new hot thing that's been coming up. Works and staffing, that's for clients that maybe haven't worked in a long time. We're trying to get contracts with the city so we can overall support to the workers. So there's a lot of movement happening there as well. So that's a little bit about the process. So once again, if you have clients or if you know people, friends that are looking for work in this new situation, feel free to let us know and we can get that intake number. Okay, thank you, Michelle. A little bit about the resources. So resources have changed. One-on-one job search coaches are available by phone. Referrals to legal aid relating to expungement, mental health counseling, interview clothing vouchers, that's still available as we move into the next couple of weeks. Metro Life program referrals, we also have Metro passes. So super important to, especially for those clients that don't have a car in order to get to work or to get to interviews. That's a really important resource that has been coming up. Okay, cool. Employment trends, a little bit about the employment trends that we've been seeing so far. Labor market's moving really quickly. A lot of sanitation positions have been coming up. That's what we've been seeing. A little bit of a reduction in housekeeping and nanny positions. We hear some of our clients say that people don't want other people coming into the houses. So we've been hearing a lot of layoffs happening in those areas. Okay, go for it. Here's my contact information. Once again, my name is David. I'm one of the senior employment specialists here. Alejandra Hernandez, she's our community engagement coordinator. So if nonprofit or your business would like for us to share a presentation, feel free to contact Alejandra and we can go ahead and do that. Andrea Castellanos is our site director here in the Valley. And on the bottom, we have our virtual hours. So we do have 4 locations: downtown, Santa Monica, right here in the Valley, San Fernando Valley, and Orange County. So if you have other clients in downtown LA, Orange County, they can be serviced in those areas as well. Okay, that's about it for me here. And once again, thank you so much for creating this space to talk about what's happening here in the Valley.
Okay, if there are no questions at this time, specifically for David, I would like now to move on to our next speaker. Our next presenter is Luis Santos Serrano from the SBA office. David, again, thank you so much for your presentation. Go ahead and take the screen now.
We're learning as we're going, folks, how to use this program.
So we're gonna go ahead and go on to Luis. Luis, you're going to be live.
We're looking for Luis's name on the list.
Okay.
And
Within his role, Luis is the officer. He is a public information officer from the Office of Disaster Assistance over at the Small Business Administration. Within his role, Luis provides information regarding the SBA's financial assistance programs available for small businesses and nonprofits. Luis will be providing some SBA updates and go over applying for economic injury disaster loans, which is, I know, is a huge, huge topic that we have all been wondering about. Luis, you are now live. Welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you, U.S. Representative Tony Cárdenas, as well for giving us the opportunity. Can everyone listen to me? Yes?
We can hear you.
Oh, perfecto. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I know that every day we have new updates, and SBA as well as the federal government is doing all the efforts to adjust and create a more efficient environment so everyone that is being impacted around the nation, including the territories, can apply for the economic injury disaster loan. To give you a brief about it, small businesses and nonprofits, organizations of any size affected by the COVID-19 or the coronavirus may apply for the economic injury disaster loans. The loans amounts are up to $2 million. The terms up to 30 years. The interest rate for profit companies or small businesses are 3.75%, and for nonprofits is 2.75%. The proceeds may be used for working capital. Proceeds may be used for working capital, including payroll costs, salaries, and sick and leave, rent of mortgage payments, material costs, pre-existing debts. Right now, there's minimal document as a document requirements and very low credit. At the same time, you may use this loan, like I mentioned before, to meet ordinary and necessary financial obligations that cannot be met as a direct result of the disaster, including the payroll costs, salary, sick leave, rent and mortgage payments, material costs, persistent debts. No collateral is required for loans of $25,000 or less. SBA will approve loans based on the information in the application and credit score. The repayment for after you have been approved is start 12 months from the date of the note. Same time, applicants are eligible now for an advance of up to $10,000 that may be requested immediately. No requirements to repay this advance, even if your disaster loan is denied. And if someone has already submitted an EIDL application, we encourage everyone to reapply using the new streamlined application and check the box for the advance as well, because the advance was not previously available before March 30th. And we encourage everyone, this new streamlined application is extremely more efficient. We are receiving millions of applications. SBA has told us that we have several millions of applications in process for this EIDL program. And we encourage everyone to use this new streamline. It will not take you more than 20 minutes. It's extremely easy. And the documents are extremely, there's no documents actually right now. For example, SBA are not required right now tax returns or financial statement on this streamlined application. And you can, and I will share a website or link where you can access this EIDL streamlined application to apply for the economic injury disaster loan. You can log into www.sba.gov. At the same time, there's another program, their Paycheck Protection Program. And we encourage businesses, if they are interested, to visit their local bank or any approved SBA 7A lender to access the Paycheck Protection Program. There's a link that you can log in, you can verify, you can put your zip code to find a lender to apply for the Paycheck Protection Program. And you can find as well this link at sba.gov/paycheckprotection/find. If you already submitted an application, or if you want to have more information about the status of your applications or questions about how to apply, guidance, we got multiple questions. We got 2 forms. You can contact 800-659-2955 or email disaster customer service at sba.gov. I will repeat the number, 800-659-2955, or email us to disaster customer service at sba.gov. One thing that I would like to share, one frequently question that we have been receiving is that, what if there's 2 programs? What if the best advice to apply for these programs? And we encourage the business to verify and select the loan program that best meets your individual business needs. You can apply for both. However, you are not permitted to hold funds from both programs for duplicate purposes. The application period for the Paycheck Protection Program runs through June 30, 2020 as of today. But for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, the application period runs through December 2020. If you find yourself that you have a working capital need beyond what is provided by the Paycheck Protection Program, you can apply for additional assistance through the EIDL program, and you have more time to apply on that. One thing is that these are loan programs, the advance that the Economic Injury Disaster Loan that you can be eligible if you select it in your streamlined application. This advance doesn't have to be repaid back. But one thing is these are loan programs, so I encourage everyone, even if you think that you don't want one of the programs, just get close to your loan or bank of preference, and at the same time apply for economic injury disaster loan, because it's going to take time. We got millions of applications right now, and we're trying to be as efficient as we can, but this is a very different disaster declaration. We haven't never experienced a disaster like this. This is all the territory of the United States and the nation, and it's important that you can start the process right away and then wait until you get contact back your loan officer with the response about if you have been approved or not. Why I encourage everyone to apply, because if you go with the Paycheck Protection Program, it's going to take time, and you can already start the process to hear back from the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. If you decide that you don't want it, there's no commitment, there's no fee. So you have the ability to decide if you want to close in with the Economic Injury Disaster Loan or not. I would like to repeat the number, 800-659-2955. If you have questions, individual questions, small business questions, if you want to know about the status of a loan application that you already submitted, as well, the email, disastercustomerservice@sba.gov, and log in to www.sba.gov, and you will find our link for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. Thank you for the opportunity to present the program. I know that we are still receiving a lot of applications, and we encourage everyone to keep calling us back. We sometimes have some difficulties with the system, but the SBA is trying to work hard to improve and be more efficient. And at the same time, we are doubling down with personnel. We have been recruiting more personnel so we can, of course, meet the demand that we have right now, that we have never been through that.
Luis, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
This is Tony Cárdenas. I have a question for you. Let me help clarify for the not-for-profits and the folks who are on the line. Let me ask you an example question. For example, if somebody's applying for assistance with SBA, and let's just say the city of Los Angeles has a separate program, can somebody apply for SBA and also apply for a different program under a different banner from a different source of funds?
They have what is it from the federal government. Federal government don't duplicate benefits. For an example, if a nonprofit, we encourage everyone, because we don't determine eligibility on the field, they have to apply. We encourage everyone to apply, even if they don't think that they qualify. If it's a nonprofit, we just, request them, please, just apply, submit the application. It's less than 20 minutes right now. And for a reason, for example, if the Paycheck Protection Program, you use it to pay payroll, right? For these first 8 weeks, you cannot use the advance that the Economic Injury Disaster Loan is right now offering for the same purpose. Right. That's why we encourage everyone to apply and let the loan application process department determine, and they will guide you to the process. But yeah, you can apply for other programs but the federal government, if it's different departments from the federal government, they don't duplicate benefits.
Yes, basically, for those people on this call, understand this. If, for example, the source of funds that the city is putting out, or the state is putting out, or SBA is putting out, is federal funds, it will say so in the process. So don't assume that you're duplicating unless you see an indication that you are duplicating. So I encourage every organization and every individual, if you have a need, apply to that source, and it's up to the source of those funds to tell you whether or not those funds are in fact federal funds, or the source of that are independent funds, et cetera. So when in doubt, go ahead and apply. Don't worry about breaking rules. If there are any rules, those rules will be in the application for you to know. And then so you can have eyes wide open and know what programs you can or can't apply to without duplicating. So when in doubt, just apply. That's my advice to everybody.
Thank you so much, Congressman. We have received a couple of more questions for Luis. So right now, I would like to go ahead and call upon Angela. Angela, your voice will be activated right now, your call, so you can go ahead and ask your question. Please go ahead, Angela.
Okay, hello, you can hear me?
We
Yes.
can hear you.
Great. I just wanted to clarify, when you mentioned the advance through the economic disaster loan, I couldn't hear if you said that that had to be repaid or not.
Thank you for the questions. Regarding the advance that the SBA is offering right now, does not have to be repaid. Of course, it's up to $10,000. You should apply, and with the information that you fill out on your application, the loan processing department will determine how much money, if you're approved, how much money they can advance you. Actually, if you're not approved to the loan, if you're denied to the loan, you can still keep that money and you do not need to repay it.
The $10,000, right, Luis? Up to $10,000.
They're up to $10,000, and I have received recently, a couple of clarifications. But as for now, as up to date, does not have to be repaid.
Thank you.
How much money you will receive as an advance, that will be determined when you fill out the application.
Okay, thank you for that. We do have additional questions. One specific from Laura regarding the hardship fund. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute you now, Laura. So you can go ahead and have access to ask your question. Laura, you are now live.
Go ahead, Laura. Laura has been unmuted.
Laura, can you hear us?
Hit it again.
Okay, here we go. Hi. So I work for a nonprofit, and a lot of our staff is choosing to work from home. So I was wondering if we could use that funding to be able to purchase equipment so staff can work from home.
Luis?
I'm sorry, I'm kind of, I was hearing Karin. Can you repeat the question, please?
Well, we were talking about.
Laura, go ahead. Say that again.
Oh, it was for one of the first grants that we were talking about in the beginning. I think it was it Ella that was presenting?
Yes, that is correct.
Right.
Ella was our first presenter.
Okay. So you mentioned that for the hardship fund can be used for individuals, like if their vehicle breaks down or something, but what about individuals that are working from home that need the equipment to work from home? If it's has to do with homeless services, basically working with families that are staying at home now with their children, getting food to them, safe parking programs, stuff like that.
Thank you for that, Laura. Ella?
Hold on, let's try to unmute Ella.
Ella, can you hear us?
For some reason, we keep clicking on Ella's to unmute her. It's not working.
Ella? Okay. We can definitely come back to your question as soon as we can get Ella on again. So for the meantime, there are additional questions regarding some of the information that Luis went over. One being, how does an organization show it has suffered economic injury?
Can you hear?
Luis,
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. In the past, for economic injury disaster loans, or when there was like a disaster declaration, they used to go and verify your financial statement for the same period of the year before the declaration is going. For an example, this declaration starts on February 1st. So all the people and businesses that are impacted, we will have gone back to February 1st, 2019 and verify your losses. Right now, we have streamlined, SBA has made a new application. They are using this streamlined version and they are just trying to advance the money to you so you can have some cash flow. And at the same time, once you apply, then they're going to go back. You're going to work with a case manager and they will verify your losses. Of course, this is for all businesses that were in business before, in operation before February 1st, 2020. And I would like as well to add the question that they made before regarding the up to a 10,000 advance. I would like to take the opportunity. Of course, this advance is, you don't have to repay it, but it's important that if you take the Paycheck Protection Program, that is a different program, you cannot use the same fund for the same purpose to pay the payroll cost. I just want to be sure that I can mention that.
Okay, but Luis, when you say businesses, that includes not-for-profits, correct?
Yes, sir, and that's great. Most private nonprofit and small businesses, or businesses, any business with 500 or fewer employees that was in operation before February 1st, 2020 is eligible. And for businesses that have more than 500 employees, but they are still considered small under SBA size standards and in operation before February 1st, 2020, are also eligible. How can you verify if you have more than 500 employees and you're still considered small under SBA standard? We got that on the www.sba.gov. On our website, you can verify that information specifically for your business, because every business and nonprofit are different. Every case is very specific.
Also, I'd like to help clarify, if you are a not-for-profit, for example, and you've been affected by COVID-19, i.e. right here in Los Angeles, stay-at-home orders, a lot of your organizations, some of your workers have to go into work because that's the class of work that you do, but some of your workers can work from home, and or you've had to lay people off, et cetera. Basically, what's going on, the spirit of the law at the federal level, which funded the SBA funding that Luis is talking about right now, the spirit of that is to make sure that we don't wait 3 weeks, 3 months before we can verify the information, before you can actually get the funds. Basically, the way it works is there's a presumption of eligibility in the language, which basically says, if you've self-identified that you've been affected, then go ahead and apply. And then later on, someone will work with you about getting that verification or documentation or what have you, so that SBA can have that on file going forward. So unlike in the past, SBA and every other organization of the government usually has had to verify things before they can actually release funds to you. In this case, the action of taking the application, submitting the application, that is the first part, and you can actually have verification after you get some of your funds. So just want to make that very clear. So what I want to encourage everybody to understand is, if you feel that your organization has been negatively affected because of COVID-19, assume that you do qualify, go through the application process, and then later on you can go through the details with them. Okay, thank you.
Again, thank you so much, Luis, for all this great information. We're gonna go ahead and move on to our next presenter. Up next, we have Regina Birdsall, who is the president for the Center for Nonprofit Management. Within her role, Regina builds successful strategic alliances with corporate, government, nonprofit, and philanthropic partners to drive collaborations around common goals. As the president, she has positioned the Center for Nonprofit Management as a resource for leadership, effectiveness, training, and change management consulting for thousands of nonprofits. Regina will be providing organizational updates as well as discuss philanthropy and best scenario planning as it relates to nonprofits. Regina, your audio and video will be active now. Thank you. You now have the floor.
We can see you, Regina.
Great. Okay. Hi. Thank you, Congressman, for giving us this opportunity and for that lovely introduction, Michelle. Our focus is on nonprofit organizations. And right now we know that so much is confusing on the economic side, on the health side. And for those of you that are running nonprofit organizations, if you're feeling overwhelmed, just know you're not alone. It is an overwhelming time. So as the earlier speakers pointed out, that there are, as you would expect, some bad actors that are going to offer deals that are too good to be true. So the earlier speakers mentioned websites that the Community Foundation has, the Small Business Administration has available to you, our website, just to try and go to places where you can trust the links. There's so much that's confusing, and we just wouldn't want you to spend any time on something that is going to take you either. If they tell you there's a fee, that's not right. And if they tell you they can help you jump through these hoops, that's not going to happen. Just make sure that you go to a site that you can trust. Definitely take advantage of the Small Business Administration site. And if you have a relationship with your banker, they're your ally right now to help you navigate what's changing so quickly since so much money's coming online. So Michelle had asked me to talk a little bit about what's happening in fund development. So I'm hoping on your screen you can see soon a couple of sites that we think you should know about that are that we make available to you. If you go to our website, we exist to be a support for you. So any of those links you can check out on our website. You'll see a blue banner at the top of our website. All of that is COVID resource related. Those are links that you can click to find out more about what's available. And then as new things come online, as the Congressman was mentioning, the city is stepping up, the county's stepping up, philanthropy's stepping up. Everyone's trying to figure out how they can help and bring resources into communities. It's just a lot to absorb. So we thought it would be easier if we try and make it at least convenient for you to find some things in one place. So if you think about the government programs that everyone just described, the next level is what's happening with philanthropy. And Allah mentioned a lot of sort of funder collaboratives in that earlier question about if you had to, as an organization, purchase equipment that you needed because you had to bring your staff home, but work needed to continue, there are relief funds that are coming up. I would definitely check those out. You know, the issue is if your bottom line changed or the way that you function had to change because of the virus, as the congressman mentioned, assume you should try to get some of this relief. We know that right now everything is oversubscribed. So just be careful about your optimism about that, but it is worth trying. There are new dollars coming into the market and they want to be helpful. The last thing I'll say about philanthropy right now is that talk to your foundations. If they've funded your organization, they are very willing to negotiate either moving programmatic support to a general operating support or to relieve you of deadlines for reporting. Right now, the real message is do what you need to do to help the people in your community and talk to your funders. Don't assume that you can't do that. Similarly, I know at the county, they are in many cases trying to help you relieve some of the pressure with some of the contracts and grants that you may have received. It's worth talking to them about what you see that you need to do right now and see if they have any room to change some of those terms. On the business side, similarly, if you have support, corporate sponsors know that this is a big season for fundraising, that a lot of people had their galas or their events, that they were counting on that money that they were going to raise in April and May, and that simply isn't going to happen. In some cases, those corporate sponsors are willing to negotiate and just have you use what you need, and we'll talk later. So it's worth communicating with them. Lastly, with individual fundraising, you know, right now we're getting hit from all sides, right? The stock market went down. People are nervous about.
Can you hear me?
They'll have jobs. You want to be careful that if you're making a case to individuals to support your organization,
Can you hear me?
You talk about it within, you know, the crisis that's going on right now and how you're addressing those needs. And in some cases, as you all well know, those needs are going up specifically because of job losses. All right. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about switching gears from fund development to my next slide, which is really about, you know, the harder thing, which is trying to do any sort of scenario planning right now. That sounds like fancy or hard. All it really is doing the best you can to anticipate what's going to be happening in the next 6 weeks, 6 months for your organization, and start to think about what choices you have. As Ala mentioned earlier, we are a management center, so we think about kind of what your business plan looks like, what your staffing looks like, what your budget looks like, and how that all links to the mission you're trying to accomplish. So one of the things that we know is everything, you know, if only we had a crystal ball and knew how things were going to go. But right now, there are remedies that can help you. If you choose to furlough employees, there are temporary unemployment benefits for them, and then you can bring them back. Everyone's trying to take a look at where they might be able to partner with other organizations who are swamped with work, and seeing if any of those partners could use some of your employees temporarily as they're trying to respond to the need. So there's lots of room for creativity right now in terms of thinking about if a partner could use some of your staff, or if you could furlough them for a while and then bring them back when the work comes back online. It's important for your board to help you think about these scenarios. And it's important for you, if you're an executive director, to be as clear as you can be with your board about what you need from them right now and what you don't need from them right now. These are really different times. And So it's going to be important that they hear from you about how they can help. And then as you make your best guesses about the best case scenario and the worst case scenario, you just have to know that we're all we're improvising, right? We're doing the best we can with what we know today, and then it could change. So if you want to go to the next slide, Michelle, there is some things to think about. As you think about scenario planning, do whatever makes sense for you in terms of what you think is happening right now, what you think the current, at least what you know in terms of the cash you have in the bank right now, and any commitments that you think you can count on, any scenarios that you might be able to build out in terms of, if things stay the same, what would probably happen, what could possibly happen. And then to be really clear with your board, and if you have a senior team, how to make decisions virtually. We know things are changing. We know that board meetings are different right now. But if we go to the next slide, all this is supposed to do is help you think about, plan A, plan B, plan C, where if nothing changes, if things change a bit, 15%, 25%, just to start to get a ballpark so that you can think about either what to stop doing or what to do differently. That's as good as it gets right now. And if you have anyone on your board that can help you think about that, that's a great assignment for them. They want to help you succeed. They're involved with you because they care about your mission. And this is the time to ask them to step up in ways that'll be helpful for you. I think right now, the most important thing to consider is that, you should take a look at the funding that's coming online, make sure that you're going to a source that you trust, and that that this is hard for everyone. We've definitely seen organizations are stressed either because they have too much to do or nothing to do, and they're afraid that they're not going to survive this pause. We also know that staff is scared for their families, for themselves, and that that environment matters too. That everyone's doing their best, and anything that you can do to make sure that your team has opportunities to connect via Zoom, so that they know that you can still talk to each other and connect with each other personally as well as professionally. The only thing I would tell you, as all of us in the workforce across the country and around the world shifted to this virtual reality, everything that you say is no longer private unless you have software that encrypts that. So if you have private information, I would suggest being careful about what you write and what you say, unless it's okay that it's public. So lastly, just want you to know that at CNM, in response to this current crisis, on Fridays, we have a session every Friday from 11:30 to 12:30 that we call Lunch and Learn, so that you can take a lunch break, we can answer questions, and then you can get back to your jobs. And tomorrow's topic will be about fund development and what's happening in kind of the virtual space right now. And then we'll talk a little bit about how boards can help you during this time. Next week, I know we'll be doing something around some of the money that's coming up from the county and the city to try and unpack and understand more about who can apply, how to apply, all of that. So I will close with that, and I need to head out to another meeting, so I will have to leave you now, but just know that our website is there. We have resources there, and we're here to help.
Thank you, Regina. And again, as a reminder to everyone, please feel free to email me directly if you have any additional questions on any of the information that was shared today from any of our presenters. Please feel free to ask any questions. I do now want to go ahead and call upon Gerdushian. That is your username on here, asking about businesses. I will go ahead and unmute you so you can go ahead and ask your question. You are now live.
Do it again. There you go.
Oh, hi. Hi, I just have a question, there's a lot of people that they had their own business and they have, having hard time making their funds to be able to pay the rent, their operational services. Is there a way also, to get help from the money that is available for the community, but they don't know, what steps to follow, where to go? So that's my question.
Okay. Are you directing it specifically to someone?
No, that's really more for Luis,
Okay.
likely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you so much for your question. Give me 1 second. Luis, can you go ahead and answer that question, please?
Small businesses
Yeah.
that are in doubt that they might qualify, et cetera, can say something encouraging, the truth about when in doubt, apply. Go ahead, Luis.
Definitely, and thank you. Definitely, since we don't determine eligibility on the field, I will encourage everyone to apply, even if you do feel that maybe you're not eligible. The SBA Office of Disaster Assistance is trying to assist all the small businesses. And now with the new streamlined version, I encourage people to apply, even if they think they don't have the knowledge. It's really, really, really simple. You don't require any documents like in the past or previously application forms. You don't need tax returns, financial statements, and you can definitely fill it out in the first 20 minutes. Since we are receiving so many applications, I just encourage you apply. It's free. There's no penalty. There's no commitment, even if you think you don't need it later. So I would just encourage, just apply and let them determine if they can approve you the loan.
Also, to the smallest businesses out there and the smallest not-for-profits, if you've ever been turned down for credit or a loan in the past, please apply now. If you've ever tried to go through a financing process and realized that it was way, way too complicated and you gave up, forget about that. Please apply now. What we did at the federal level, and which I'm sure they're doing at every level of government, at the city, the county, and the state, we're making it as easy as possible for people to take the first steps of application. And we removed a lot of the barriers that have really frustrated people in the past when it comes to whether it's an SBA loan or some other process. What we're doing is we're making it incredibly easy for people to actually access this first part and hopefully have success and actually get money into their organization's hands or into their individual hands as quickly as possible. So again, in the past, if you got turned down, in the past, if it was too complicated, in the past, if you felt like you weren't able to pull together all the required paperwork that they were asking for you in the past, please forget about all that. Please, please, please just apply. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Luis, for answering that. Our next question is actually directed to Ella. Ella, you're going to go live now, so you can go ahead and answer this question. Ella,
Sure, I'm here.
Okay, great. So we have a question from Laura. Laura is going to go ahead and ask you the question. Laura, you are going to be unmuted right now, so you can go ahead and ask your question. Please go ahead.
Perfect, thank you. Hi, Ella. So I work for a nonprofit. I'm sure there's a bunch of people that are doing this now too, where a lot of employees want to work from home, but they don't have the equipment. So would they be able to apply for the hardship assistance to be able to purchase equipment to work from home?
So hardship assistance is not a grant to the nonprofit. It's a grant that is administered by a nonprofit to individuals. but you could apply for a general operating support grant that you can then spend on whatever infrastructure you need. So can you tell me what your nonprofit does? Laura, I think you're on mute.
Hold on, Laura. We'll get to you in a second.
Thank you.
Okay, Laura, go ahead.
Okay, so we do homeless services as well as safe parking and food security.
Right. So you would apply as a homeless services provider, but ask for a general operating support grant, which means that you can spend that money on infrastructure, on back of house, on whatever you want to spend it on. So as long as you're getting general operating support, you can spend it on buying computers, on setting up, a safe server, whatever you need. But because you're a homeless services provider already and you fall within those categories, you should be able to apply for a general operating support grant.
Okay, perfect. A lot of our clients were placed in motels, and some need car repairs so they can continue going to the doctors for emergencies and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that would be something?
Yes. So in that case, you could apply to be a hardship grant provider. And then, but you have to, because we're in such an emergency situation, you have to already have done that in the past, because to give out individual grants, there's a lot of auditing and tracking that needs to happen. So it can end up sort of backfiring if you don't have that infrastructure in place already. So if you have experience doing grants to individuals already and you have that infrastructure in place, then you can absolutely apply to be a provider. But if you don't, I wouldn't recommend this be the time that you start doing that.
Okay, thank you for your honesty.
Yeah.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Ella.
Of course.
Okay, so our next question comes from Alex Sanchez. Alex, you are now live to ask your question.
If something comes up like the Playboys, right? There's the Playboys.
Alex, you're on.
The Playboy bunny, the logo of the magazine, right? But a lot of other people also use that Playboy bunny, and they're not from Playboys, the gang, right? So it's that for some people it might be a factor of somebody's involvement in a particular gang because of the Playboy's logo. But everybody that wears that logo does not mean that he's from Playboy.
Alex Sanchez.
The magazine's not about the gang, right?
Alex.
So there's ways around it, but it's all in the combination of how.
Yeah, I think he's doing the conference call and he's also on another call. So go to somebody else.
Okay, so next up we have Gail Sofer, who has a question. Gail, you will be unmuted right now, so you can go ahead and ask your question. Go ahead, Gail.
Actually, it was answered.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, it was about the hardship grants, and I understood that the nonprofit itself would be the pass-through, would become the grantor. We have a lot of veterans struggling with several levels of hardships right now, but we do not have experience in doing that grant making. We're too new and too small. So that was answered.
Thank you, Gail, for all the wonderful work that you do with our veterans and with everybody else. For those people who don't know Gail, Gail is about mindfulness, and she helps people learn how to center themselves, etc. And everybody can just imagine how important that is to our veterans. It's important to all of us, but especially to our veterans with PTSD and other issues. So thank you, Gail, for all the amazing work that you continue to do.
Oh, thank you. I mean, right now I'm looking for all the help we can get, because isolating is not a healthy thing for people who have mental health issues, and physical, mental, and emotional health issues all compounding each other. Don't have transportation, to get to, don't have computers to register for things, don't have transportation to get to places, and can't line up because they're on walkers, or, I mean, the issues are wild. I've literally saved 3 lives in the past 2 days, people calling in, just saying, I can't do this anymore, and talking them down from doing something dangerous to just like, here, let's look at some of the options. And today I delivered food to 7 individuals who were out of food. So that's why I was looking for the hardship grants, because we're getting nonstop calls. We tend to get the people who are falling through the cracks because they have multiple issues and can't even apply for a lot of things on their own. So that's why I thought, oh, this looks really good, but we don't have a history of it. So,
Well, but also what you can do is partner with somebody who is a direct grant provider. And once they realize that you're for real, Gail, because they don't know you from before, and they realize that you're for real, then you can have that partnership, and then you can go directly to them, and then they can actually provide those direct grants, but knowing that you have that relationship 24/7.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gail. So there was also another question from Beverly Perez. I'm gonna go ahead and ask it for her. So her question is there any information on how nonprofits can apply for the mayor's COVID emergency fund? Is there an application, or is it a pre-selected orgs? And Ella, I believe this question is directed towards you, so I'm gonna go ahead and unmute you and activate your video. You can go ahead and answer that question. Ella? Ella? Did you hear the question, Ella?
No, can you repeat it?
Yes. So we have a question from Beverly Perez. She wants to know if there is any information on how nonprofits can apply to the mayor's COVID emergency fund, or is there an application, or is it pre-selected orgs?
So you would have to go to the Mayor's Fund website. Unfortunately, I don't have that information. I know that they have some priorities that they've outlined, but on their website should have the process for applying.
And then also, Ella, Gail had a question about how it appears that as many not-for-profits, they go beyond their specific scope to help people further than what their original scope is. For example, if she's doing things that are exactly direct grants, individual contact direct grant activity, what can Gail do to get a hold of? She works specifically mostly with veterans, for example.
Mm-hmm.
What can she do to connect, or what's the best way that she can connect to an organization that does do direct grants, and so that they can partner together and she can start that relationship so that she can connect her constituency to that direct grant provider?
That's a great question. So I forwarded along in the group chat the link to the Pass It Along Fund portion of our website, and our nonprofit approved partners are there. So you could easily look who those nonprofits are and connect with them directly. I also want to address the fact that yes, many nonprofits right now are pivoting beyond their normal scope of work. Mm-hmm. A lot of that has to do with food assistance and other things. Those things qualify. So for example, the Boys and Girls Clubs don't normally do food access and distribution, but because they're such a trusted messenger in the community and people go to them when they need help, they've started to do food distribution. So they qualify for support in that pivot of what their general mission is. So I would say if you are doing something like that and you have relationships with foundations or you have a program officer, I would talk to them and say, we're seeing this gap in need in our community. It's not what we normally do, but there isn't a nonprofit in our community that does this. And so we're taking that on. And that's definitely an open conversation, that pivot in mission.
Thank you, Ella. We're getting to the end of our time together on this particular call. And again, this is not going to be the last time we come together. And once again, I just want to thank all the not-for-profits for all the amazing work that you do. And you're absolutely right, Ella. A lot of organizations are going way beyond their scope. And it's not because they want to violate their own bylaws or what have you. It's just that that's the nature of not-for-profits. We don't want to say no, and we can't say no because that's just not in our DNA, right? So the bottom line is this, it's really important that we understand that we need to do everything that we can to connect each other and to make sure that we're there for folks. I'll give you an example. In this call, I asked Michelle to take me on video just for a few minutes because earlier I got a call today from a frantic person who's related to somebody who has a psychological problem, a serious psychological problem. Because of that, ended up in county jail, just got released. The mom called this person and said, your cousin just got released. He won't talk to me. I don't know where he is. I just got notified by the county that he just got released. So knowing that that person who's not a not-for-profit, just a family member, can actually communicate with this person in a dire situation, that person called me frantic because they didn't know where to start. So what I did is I ended up connecting the person who just got released to somebody in the county so that they can get help. So I apologize, I was on 95% of the call, but I wasn't able to be on for a few minutes because that was a real time happening right now as we speak. It's not exactly directed to COVID-19, but what I want to emphasize to everybody, on top of everything that we've all been doing so far, now we have COVID-19, this pandemic impacting us on top of that. And that's another reason why not-for-profits who can't say no, don't know how to say no, are going way beyond their scope. So one of the things I want to let all of you know that I'm working on with my staff and with my colleagues in Washington, trying to figure out how we can incentivize and or encourage, and I hope maybe it gets to the point where we require that the foundations, especially the biggest foundations in the country, to actually be required to give above the 5% minimum that they have to give annually by the federal standards throughout the rest of the year or maybe possibly beyond. Again, what I'm trying to do is see if we can incentivize the big foundations to do that. And we've done back of the napkin estimates that if we did something like that, just by increasing it by 1% above what they gave last year, we would be infusing just in California alone several $100 million more into the ecosystem of not-for-profit activity when it comes to resources to not-for-profits across the state of California. And that would translate into billions of dollars around the country. So just in the not-for-profit space, that's something that I'm already starting to look into as a congressman to see how and if we can actually pass legislation to incentivize the biggest foundations in the country to open up their coffers more than they normally do to make sure that there are more dollars during this pandemic crisis of COVID-19. Again, just because COVID-19 is here doesn't mean that all of our other duties have gone away. COVID-19 has exacerbated the need out in every community, especially the people who need us the most. So I just want to say thank you all for all the amazing work that you're doing. Ella, David, Luis, Regina, thank you so much for being on this call and helping us with some of this information. And we'll do this again very soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And as a reminder to you all, just wanted to take a quick minute to let you know that our office remains open from Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. We are here to answer calls. If you want to reach us to try and, get any concerns answered, questions answered, refer people to us if they're having any issues with the federal government, please feel free to do so. In addition to that, we have extended our telephone hours from Monday through Friday from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. And I encourage you all again to reach our office number, which is 221-3718. Anyone who is interested in reaching me directly to follow up on any information for this call or any other matter, I have provided my email in the chat box, but I will go ahead and read it out loud for those of you who are calling in. Email is michelle.vergara, V as in Victor, ERGARA @mail.house.gov. And again, thank you to all our participants. Thank you to all our presenters for joining us today. We will definitely see you soon as we continue with this telebriefing series. Thank you all.
Thank you. Have a good day.